It happened in less than 60 seconds. One moment, 6-year-old Liam Parker was skipping down the Pine Loop Trail at the edge of Gallatin National Forest, barefoot, wild-haired, full of life. The next, he was gone. Bozeman, Montana was known for its mountains, elk, and starry skies. But that weekend, it became known for something else. The Parker family had driven up from town for a simple day hike. Nothing extreme. Just fresh air and quiet. It was a cloudless July afternoon, the kind of day where the sun dances on tree leaves and even the wind hums softly through the branches. "Stay where we can see you, buddy," Liam's dad, Nathan, called out. But Liam didn't answer. At first, they assumed he'd wandered behind a bush or crouched to chase a grasshopper. But as the minutes stretched into a hollow silence, his mom, Rachel, felt it in her chest: something was wrong. They searched. Then screamed. Then ran in circles calling his name until their voices cracked. No rustling. No footprints. No scream. Just absence. By sundown, search teams had mobilized. Dogs sniffed at Liam's last known spot. Drones hovered over the dense canopy. Rangers scoured creek beds and hidden game trails. But Liam had vanished, completely and utterly, like the forest had swallowed him whole. That night, the temperature dropped into the 40s. Coyotes howled. The woods grew darker than ink. Everyone knew, no 6-year-old survives a night alone out there. Not in these mountains. Not with the wolves. But 3 days later, something impossible happened. A hunter named Daniel Ruiz radioed in, shaking. "You're not gonna believe this," he whispered. "I found the boy. He's alive. And he's not alone." Daniel Ruiz had been hunting elk for nearly 20 years in the forests around Bozeman. He knew every crack of twig, every trail marker, every sound that didn't belong. But nothing, had prepared him for what he saw that morning near Glacier Rock. He was quietly tracking movement through his scope when he noticed something strange: a dark clearing about 30 yards ahead, completely silent. No birds. No breeze. Just stillness. He crept closer. At first, he thought he was hallucinating. In the middle of the clearing, curled up in a bed of pine needles and moss, lay a small boy, barefoot, muddy, and fast asleep. But what stopped Daniel in his tracks wasn't the boy. It was the wolves. 4 of them. Massive. Gray and black, with thick coats and yellow eyes that didn't blink. They were lying in a circle around the boy. Not aggressive. Not guarding him. But, with him. As if he belonged there. Daniel froze, barely breathing. He raised his hands slowly, trying not to startle them. But the wolves didn't move. One of them, a huge male, lifted its head and looked at Daniel. Not with rage. Not even fear. Just recognition. And something else. Permission. Daniel whispered into his radio, "I found the kid. He's alive. And he's with wolves. Real wolves." Within the hour, rescue crews arrived, hearts pounding and unsure what they were walking into. The team approached carefully, expecting chaos. But by the time they reached the clearing, the wolves were gone. No footprints. No sound. Nothing but the boy, still asleep. Rachel dropped to her knees when she saw Liam. His face was scratched, his clothes were torn, but he was breathing. Peacefully. Like he'd never been afraid. And when he opened his eyes, he looked past the crowd. Past his mother. Straight into the woods. Like he was waiting for something, or someone, to return. They expected tears. Confusion. A frightened child clinging to his mother. But Liam Parker didn't cry. Wrapped in a thermal blanket, sitting on the tailgate of a search and rescue truck, he stared quietly at the tree-line. Unblinking. Calm. Almost serene. Paramedics asked questions. He gave short answers. Were you cold? No. Did you hear animals? They were with me. Did you try to find your way back? I wasn't lost. Rachel held him tight, but even she could feel something had shifted in him. Something unexplainable. That night at Bozeman Regional Hospital, the doctors ran every test they could. Scratches, yes. Mild dehydration, yes. But nothing else. No infections. No hypothermia. No bruises. Not even a bug bite. He should have been in critical condition. Instead, Liam was healthy. Too healthy. A child alone in the wilderness for 3 days shouldn't have looked this calm, or this untouched by the forest. Rachel pressed him gently. Sweetheart, do you remember where you were? Liam tilted his head. There was a big rock and lots of trees. And the quiet wolves. They weren't scary, Mommy. They were warm. That word stuck with her. Warm. Jack tried to rationalize it. Maybe he imagined it. Maybe it was a dream. He's been through trauma. But Rachel wasn't sure. Liam had never spoken like this. His tone was steady. His eyes were older. And that night, as he fell asleep in the hospital bed, something eerie happened. The security camera in the hallway outside his room flickered for a few seconds, then glitched. When it came back, a nurse reviewing the footage paused the video. There, at the far end of the hallway, barely visible in the shadows, stood what looked like a massive canine silhouette. Motionless. Watching. Before vanishing without a trace. No paw prints. No sound. Only a cold trail of muddy water left on the tile floor, leading back toward the door. To Liam's room. The hospital wrote it off as a glitch. A shadow, probably a technician or janitor, they said. But the nurses weren't convinced. Especially not Nurse Caroline. She was the one who found the muddy prints, 5 of them, large, precise, and leading toward Liam's door. No one could explain how something with paws had entered a secured, second-floor hallway. The next morning, Liam woke up smiling. The wolves visited me last night, he said softly. But only one came inside. He told me not to be scared. Rachel and Jack exchanged a worried glance. Liam, you were dreaming, sweetheart. No, Liam insisted, his voice firm. He came to say goodbye. By the afternoon, they were discharged. The doctors had no reason to keep him. Physically, Liam was fine. But Rachel's instincts screamed otherwise. Back at home, things weren't normal. Liam didn't want to play with his toys. He didn't want his favorite cereal. At night, he stood by the window, gazing out at the forest that bordered their backyard. He's waiting, Rachel whispered to Jack. For something. Or someone. Jack shook his head. He's 5. He's traumatized. He'll adjust. But then the dreams started. Liam would sit up in bed in the middle of the night and whisper in a language no one understood. Guttural sounds. Rhythmic. Wild. Like howling. Then silence. Rachel began recording him. She played the audio to a wildlife biologist from Montana State University who specialized in wolf behavior. He listened with narrowed eyes. This is impossible, he murmured. That pattern, it's eerily similar to wolf vocalizations. Not just mimicking. It's like he's responding to something. And that's when Rachel confessed. She'd been having dreams too. Of forests. Of glowing eyes. Of a single, massive wolf standing at the edge of her property, staring into her soul. She always woke up at exactly 3:17 a.m. The same time Liam did. Something had followed him out of that forest. Not just a memory. Something alive. And it was still watching. By the second week, Rachel couldn't deny it anymore. Liam wasn't the same boy who left for that hike in Gallatin National Forest. He looked like Liam, laughed like Liam, but there was something else behind his eyes now. Something ancient. Something wild. He stopped using words altogether. Instead, he would hum low, melodic tones. Deep and soft. Always around dusk. Then came the animals. It started with rabbits. Then deer. Then coyotes. They showed up in the backyard in groups, just standing. Silent. Motionless. Eyes fixed on the house. On Liam. One night, Rachel woke up to find the front door wide open. Liam was gone. She ran barefoot into the backyard, heart pounding. And there he was, standing at the edge of the trees, staring into the darkness. When she reached him, she froze. Across the yard, under the pale glow of the moon, stood a single wolf. Towering. Still. Its fur silvered with age, its eyes glowing amber. Liam turned to her. He came to take me home. Rachel dropped to her knees. No, baby, this is your home. Liam walked back to her and gently touched her face. His fingers were warm, but his eyes were distant. I love you, Mommy. But I don't belong here anymore. Before she could speak, the wolf howled. Not in warning. Not in threat. In farewell. Liam stepped into the woods, barefoot and unafraid. The other wolves emerged, 6, maybe 7, flanking him as he disappeared into the forest like mist through trees. Search teams were called again. But this time, no trail. No prints. Not even a scent. Days passed. Weeks. Then months. Rachel never moved away. She left the back door open every night. And sometimes, just sometimes, at 3:17 a.m., she hears it. A howl. Not sad. Not distant. Close. Familiar. And she smiles. Because deep in her soul, she knows. Liam didn't vanish. He went home.